All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments Silicon Reviews. Four reviews up this week, the first of which is Bartlow's Dread Machine. Now, if you recall, uh, we did an interview about this game last season, like maybe about 6 months ago.
Something like that.
You know, uh, and the game was still in development, and it had an early access release during the summer. But now the game is content complete and is fully released 1.0. So we can now review it. We do have a policy of not actually reviewing early access games. The best will be an impressions video because early access games can change significantly.
They can
But
also not always be finished.
right. So, you know, anyway, Dread Machine is complete. And in case you missed the interview or don't know what this is, Bartlow's Dread Machine is a most curious creation. And not just in terms of its general aesthetics and story and all that stuff. Like, this is definitely something that stands out in a lot of ways. Now, the Bartlow's Dread Machine is a curious electrical age game device that's in game. Outside, this is a twin stick shooter. Yeah, it's a twin stick shooter involving an electrical age device here. And, well, I'll get into how well that worked out a little later. But um, in the game within a game, so to speak, you play as I'm going to say a treasury agent, Secret Service technically, um, because you are a personal bodyguard to the president of the United States of America. The president in question being Theodore Roosevelt. Um, and he has been captured by some ne'er-do-well cult, and your job is to be a bad enough electric figure to rescue the president. That's just the basics here. It gets a lot weirder because it goes into the you're dealing like with, God, I'm trying to remember the term, like radical anarchist, something like that. I know it doesn't really matter. You're dealing with you're dealing with a death cult here, uh, and you've got to go rescue the president. It's going to take a bit since this is across 6 worlds, about 3-4 stages per level. Not just dealing with human figures, let's just say. Lot of steampunk, diesel punk aesthetics going on here. It's all fairly brilliant from an aesthetical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and that extends to the music as well. It's very old timey, though very proper music as well. You're not going to get jazz or even ragtime here. It's more it's more ordered than that. It was something that not quite produced from Tin Pan Alley, but in the mold. Just anyway. So yeah, this is a twin stick shooter, and that gets to the problem I had with this game, or at least one of the problems, and that is, so if you know how your average twin stick shooter plays, you know that you usually have 360 degrees of freedom in both your aiming and your movement. And that's what this game changes up. Not so much in your aiming. No, oh no, that's still 360 degrees. Your movements are confined to pathways. Once again, it's fitting in with what this game is going
right,
for.
because you're playing with a literal stand-up figurine on metal rails.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, your avatar isn't FBI or whatever agency agent you are. Also, you can pick up more characters as the campaign goes along. A lot of famous characters from, the Wild West to early 20th century going on here, like, say, Annie Oakley, to cite one example. But anyway, so instead of being able to move wherever you want or need, you are stuck on a very digital pathways too. There are no diagonals here. It's just up, down, left, and right, and
which somewhat limits your options for escape when you're getting crowded with enemies.
Yes. Also, for whatever reason, this game is controlled with the analogs. With the its movement's controlled by the analog stick instead of the D-pad, and I'll say right now that was a mistake.
Being literally whatever the word is.
Just finish your point.
Literally digital.
Yes. Yeah, like the analog stick.
There is no speed control. There is no non-cardinal directional control.
Right, and even if there was more directions, like diagonals, D-pads can handle 8-way pretty well. Like what I'm getting at here is using the analog stick to actually move around can sometimes be fairly clunky. Especially like when I go down a pathway I didn't want to go down, and because I'm trying to get some pennies that are about to despawn. That happened with annoying regularity. But ultimately the movement problems in this game are minor. In the grand scheme of things, it can be a bit of a hindrance, especially when you're trying to escape. But I'd say the biggest the biggest potential problem with this game is its difficulty. This game, now it's got adjustable difficulty. I'd probably recommend going easy first time around, because even medium, this game is going to kick your ass. Like, I was kind of shocked at how difficult medium was. Crank that down to very easy, and then it did have the other problem of, it's very easy. It's also kind of dull now. But, it's nice that the variance is there. It's just fair warning. And let's see. In terms of the shooting mechanics, well, you've got an array of guns to bring to the party. You will start out with I guess it's a rifle. Like, I'm not exactly sure what your default weapon is. I don't think they define that, because you're always going to have that. What you switch is your secondary weapons. Like, the two that you start out are going to be a pair of revolvers, which are very fast, really good for crowd control, and a shotgun, which is good for getting a whole bunch of enemies spread out, like you would expect a shotgun to do. As far as the other weapons, well, they get a lot more expensive really quickly. And it's going to be a while. I'd say about second, third world, depending on the difficulty, before you start unlocking them. And that's if you don't unlock other things. Because in terms of power-ups, you have the elixirs. Once again, starting elixirs are more, you move faster, you get to replenish ammunition, or you get to replenish health, among other things. And, once again, once you get past the starters, things get expensive quickly. And there's also costumes. They don't do anything per se, except, accentuate your aesthetic preferences. But those also cost in-game money. And the way you earn money is by, enemies will drop pennies, and you get rewards for how well you did in the stage. How accurate you were, your combos, that kind of thing. It's pretty standard stuff. And also, there's no in-game currency, there's no microtransactions. This is a pure full game that expects you to unlock things the old school proper way. So no need to worry on that space. These kind of games get made all the time. It's just they don't tend to be in the AAA space anymore. Anyway, and let me see here. And yeah, I think that's about it for the basics. As far as what I thought about this game, two minds. I did enjoy this quite a lot. Far sight better than any of the other twin stick shooters we've reviewed this year by a wide margin. It's just I wouldn't call this one of the all-time classics. And I think it really comes back down to how fiddly the movement is. It's a nice idea and it's keeping in with the aesthetic. It's just it doesn't work out well because I'm using an analog stick. If I were able to use a D-pad, and maybe this is something the developers can patch in, I don't know, but it's definitely something I would like to see in a future update. And let me see. So, who else here engaged in the playing of Bartlow's Dread Machine?
I did.
I did, since I'm the one who recorded the footage.
Yes, and your thoughts?
My biggest issue is the perspective. It's hard for me to line up a good shot with it.
Same here, actually. Yeah. It was difficult at times to get a precise aim on the enemies and end up missing them half the time.
I gotta say the perspective didn't bother me all that much. Though once again, that's kind of a thing that's a problem that's introduced because of what the game's going for.
Indeed.
It has to be that zoomed out because you're playing little mechanical tin dolls.
Well, it's not the. If it was more vertical, it would be better. But looking diagonally at it.
Once again, that's not a thing that was going to happen because of how this thing would have been aligned. It wouldn't have aligned it vertically. If this thing had existed in real life, it would have been aligned horizontally. Especially, you can imagine this being put in a traveling case or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a very horizontal game when I think about it. And apologies in advance. We did have the intention of testing out the co-op feature here. It doesn't have a proper online co-op, but Steam has remote play. But add this to the pile of things that didn't work because of Steam remote play. It's like Steam remote play works in theory. More than in actuality.
And lack of windowed mode options, wasn't it? Although, yeah, this is not a game I would want to be dealing with time delay on at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the footage you're seeing here is actually pre-recorded. We sometimes do that with some of these games, especially if we have problems with the live recording. So, it's six of one, half a dozen of the other. And let's see. In terms of pricing, so this game clocks in at $14.99. Not sure if that's going to include, like DLC campaigns, whatever else that they plan on updating. Because they have just added a new mode last month, the Canal Zone. So this game is getting regular updates. New levels, new weapons, new enemies, new playable characters. So it looks like if you buy the game, you will get all of the DLC updates for free. So that's always nice. And
Mhm.
as far as its price goes, perfectly serviceable. You know, I think this game could have gotten away with $20 just off the base of the strength of its aesthetical values. Like, but you know, it's like as far as the complete package, I'd say a solid 7. You know, really good game. Definitely the best twin stick shooter I've played in a while. Like, but I couldn't say this is an all time classic either. And I've stated my reasons, and my crew here have stated their reasons. There's some stuff that's, you know, it makes sense with what the game's going for, but in terms of actually,
Yeah, there have been some compromises to gameplay experience in
Yeah.
the name of, adherence to the limitations of what the game is attempting to simulate.
Right.
Yeah.
So unfortunate, but I've seen that. Like, I've seen that kind of execution go wronger, but I have seen it done better as well.
Mhm.
You know, and yeah. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns about Bartlow's Dread Machine here?
Not really.
Me neither.
I want to see an actual coin-op version installed at the county fair.
If we weren't in the midst of COVID season, I'd pay to see that. Like, anyway, so yeah, that'll about do it for Bartlow's Dread Machine here. Be sure to tune in after the break as Galix will be reviewing this a bit of a mouthful. Hardcore Maze Cube puzzle survival game.